Riding high off the success of our romp through Dark Souls 3, we arrive at our final destination, the Lands Between. I'm really excited to see how this run stands up. Elden Ring has such a fun assortment of items and tools to use against its wide array of bosses. Really curious to see how the game holds up when you are limited to basically just a knife and a dream. To answer that question, let's get into it. Create our final knives, choosing the bandit starting class. This gives us good dexterity and arcane, along with a starting weapon with innate bleed. Much like Dark Souls 3, bleed is really good in Elden Ring. While a few required bosses are immune, most aren't, and the damage proc is, yes please. Right out of the gate, we need to do a bunch of setup. Just like in Sorcery Only, the open world means we have a lot we can do right out the gate to prep us for the first real boss we'll be fighting. It also opens up an important question. What do we do about Ashes of War? A question that wasn't relevant in Sorcery Only is how to treat Ashes of War. You can equip Ashes of War on weapons to change the scaling of the weapon, meaning it is way more dynamic than infusions of prior games. And these give you access to a special skill you can use with L2. Ashes of War aren't daggers, but they are equipped on daggers? So here's what I decided. I can equip Ashes of War on daggers to change the scaling, but I cannot use the associated skill unless it meets one of two criteria. The skill in question doesn't deal damage, or the skill is the default skill, or can't otherwise be changed on a weapon. For the first part of the rule, I can use magic weapon and similar buffs, so using a skill that buffs me seems fine, and totally in keeping with the rule set of only dealing damage to enemies with daggers. For the second option, there are some really good unique daggers with unique skills, or kind of unique, we'll get to it, and these feel like more part of the dagger than a modular Ash of War added on to some random dagger. This feels the most right to me, though it is a bummer because it means I'll be missing out on some really useful skills in this run. Okay, explanations aside, let's speedrun through the first setup portion of the run. Grab Torrent, cause horse, or goat? What is Torrent? Whetstone Knife will let us change Ashes of War, Golden Foulfoot, and hey, free dagger. Fight this pumpkin head. It's an easy fight to get back in the flow of combat, and beating it unlocks Selin, both for magic weapon and her quests later on. Glintstone Staff, because staff. Fight Nereus to get Reduvia. Takes a couple tries because he can one-shot me, but Reduvia is worth the effort. Kill Patches. Kill this knight to get a Blood Ash of War. Can't use the skill, but the bleed scaling is great. Radagon Soreseal, because the increased damage taken isn't too bad, and the physical stat buffs are great. Carve up a defenseless dragon with bleed. Sorry, Grail, you have entirely too many runes in you. Finally, grab the Golden Vow Ash of War. This can go on my free dagger for a nice buff skill. The spell lasts longer, but is far away, and has a faith requirement. And is like 30% more effective, apparently. Wish I'd known that. First setup done, and we arrive at our first proper boss, Margit. And he gets stomped. Margit's not too bad a fight, especially with how many times I've fought him. It also helps that bleed is stupid good against anything not immune to it. The Blood Blade of Reduvia has a pretty short range, but the damage is good and still causes bleed buildup. Also, I killed Grail with a Golden Foulfoot, so I'm considerably higher level than the game really expects me to be. But I'm okay with it. After the fun I had in Dark Souls 3, I'm looking forward to stomping as many bosses as I can in this run. I'm pretty experienced at running through the rest of the castle. Legacy dungeons in this game have so much exploration you can do, and so much exploration you can just completely skip. It's great for a casual run, and doesn't slow down quick runs. Godric surprisingly takes a couple tries. It's been a pretty long time since I've had to fight him in melee, so all my dodge timings are pretty rough. And while Bloodblade is a ranged attack, its range is also really bad. While bleed procs for my weapon are good, the base damage is still pretty low since I haven't really upgraded the dagger at all. Godric does go down though, just have to remember how to fight him. Not liking how rusty I am in melee fights though. When was the last time I had to fight the bosses in this game even remotely fairly? I can relearn it. Okay, more setup. Run around the map, grabbing some somber stones to upgrade the Reduvia. I can't really get it up to +9 yet, but a couple upgrade levels should do wonders. Grab the Fire Wet Blade from the non-festival version of Redmane Castle, gives me a sacred affinity that I'll want later. Larval Tier, because I'm going to need to do some re-specking for some later fights. Academy Key, to get into Raya Lucaria. Oh hi Blythe, can you tell EG to sell me the Carrion Filigreed Crest? Then I buy the Carrion Filigreed Crest. Next, it's into Raya Lucaria. Get kidnapped by the Abductor Virgin to get an early trip to the underside of Volcano Manor. Sources tell me there are some somber stones I can grab by coming this way, but I am not great at following instructions, so I don't know where they are. This is a waste of time. Let's go back to Raya Lucaria. Time for Red Wolf. Despite this fight not actually being that hard, I still usually die to it at least once. Not this time though, which is a refreshing change. Watching back the footage, I suspect this has more to do with the damage of bleed rather than me actually playing well. Seriously, past me? Were you thinking of dodging? You know, anything? Better. Still bad, but better. Kill Moongrum, mostly because he is irritating. Fortunately, all you need to do is just spam Blade Beam. I can see now why Nereus kept doing this. It's actually pretty fun to just spam until dead. Renala, creepy Academy Mom. Knock down her Golden Aura children, then blast her down. The sheer damage of bleed, and that she can't stop you from spamming attacks in Phase 1, makes it really easy. It's a 2-cycle, and we're into the fight proper. Which basically goes the same way. Using Blade Beam in melee means I get to hit her with both the beam and the dagger's regular attack. 2 bleed buildups for the price of 1, though I would guess that the regular attack bleed is reduced. And unlike Sorcery Only, I have nothing to gain from distance, so her spell spam is easier to deal with. Her Summon's Breaking Lock-on is still really obnoxious, but my dagger attacks are fast enough I can basically just ignore them. Get a little greedy and finish her as she is summoning her dragon and just limbo under his fire breath. Huh. Never knew that was so easy to dodge. Making a note of that for the future. Huh. How'd I get this far in the script without mentioning Power Stancing? Power Stancing from Dark Souls 2 is back. It works basically the same way, and I do basically the same thing I did in Dark Souls 2. Try it out for a bit, determine it's not worth it, and stop. To be fair, smithing stones to level up my Great Knife are way more tedious than just using somber stones on the Reduvia, and the Reduvia ends up just better anyway. Anyway, grab the Somber Stone Bell-Bearing 1 so I can buy stones to upgrade some daggers I'll be getting later on. Grab Briars of Sin and Flame Cleanse Me. Wait, why is Briars of Sin in my notes? It's a sorcery that deals damage, meaning I can't use it. And it's trash. Alexander Shard boosts skill damage, which is great. Then fight and kill the Godskin Noble, after a couple attempts. Somber Bell-Bearing 2 means even more Somber Stones I can buy. Then the Black Knife. It deals holy damage, which would normally be trash, but the skill deals damage over time that scales with the enemy's max HP. Then fight and kill the Tree Sentinel to get access to Leyndell. It takes a good number of tries. My only damage types are Slash and Bleed, and he is very resistant to both. I don't really have another option other than to get good, which I do, eventually. Into Leyndell, and I take a hop, skip, and a jump along the rooftops to fast-track my way to the first boss, Goldfroy, who takes more tries than he should have. His moveset isn't bad, but my damage is absolutely awful, so I have to take a while fighting him. He's immune to bleed and takes pretty normal slash damage, except it's my slash damage, so yeah, not great. Wait, he's weak to lightning? Oh, wish I'd known that. He does eventually go down though. Despite no status buildup, that fight's not too bad, but yeah, daggers really fall flat when I can't inflict any status effects. Then we go Morgoth, one of my least favorite bosses in the game. And no, I'm not just saying that because he kicked my butt a bunch of times. I mean, he did, but that's not why I don't like him. Fortunately, he is vulnerable to bleed. Unfortunately, the range on Bloodbeam is bad, and he's really mobile. It takes a while to relearn the pattern of his attacks and figure out where to stand in his sword rain cross. Seriously, I die twice because I just get peppered with swords. But once I get back in the swing of things, it's okay. And I bleed down the Lord of Leyndell. Stupid Morgott. Grab a Somberstone 7 in Volcano Manor. Last thing I need to really max out the Reduvia. I mean, +9, but I'll get the last Somberstone I need shortly. Killed Commander O'Neill so I can start Millicent's questline. Then to the Shaded Castle to get the prosthesis to give to Millicent. Then it's festival time. Radahn goes way easier than I expected. I am really bad at dodging his Gravity Orbs attack. Good thing Bloodbeam deals so much bleed buildup. One good combo takes out a fourth of his HP. Why did I kill Radahn again? Golden Scarab boosts rune gain, and I really should have grabbed it way sooner. Not sure why I didn't. Winged Insignia Talisman boosts melee damage with multiple hits, which with daggers is really easy to trigger. Ritual Shield gives a nice defense bonus while at max health, helpful to give an extra hit of survivability. Flame Grant Me Strength is a short buff, but it boosts both physical damage and fire damage. I want Vike's armor. Vike doesn't want me to have his armor. We agree to disagree. Fire Giant. Fire Giant is a tanky boy. He's resistant to bleed, but weak to slash. This means my damage is bad. It's so bad. And his stupidly high HP is not helping matters. The orbs he summons to be random hazards around the arena is also not helping. Bloodbeam's Rage is absolutely awful against such a large foe, and it really shows its limitations. This fight takes a pretty solid number of attempts. I miss Carrion Slicer. I didn't have to try at all against this boss. And yes, I know damage is lessened against his legs, and you should aim for his hands in Phase 2. However, I'm bad at doing that, and Dagger's quick attack speed but low damage makes it difficult to make those hits worth the risk. Let's see how the Black Knife does. It deals holy damage, which is resisted, but the Black Blade Beam travels further, reduces his HP, and causes a damage over time effect. It still takes a few tries to make it work, but the Fire Giant does eventually die to Black Flame. Really not liking how the latter half of these fights have gone. I really should have picked up the Scorpion Stinger for the rot buildup. Okay, before we head to Farum Azula, we need to take one more quick detour. Zellen's questline. We did it in the Sorcery Only run to get the Graven Mass Talisman, which is not the reward for this quest. This time we will be doing it for the Glintstone Kris, which actually is a reward. Doing the quest is really tedious, but the Glintstone Kris might end up being very useful. It's an int/dex weapon that has the Glintstone Pebble Ash of War, which yes, is not unique, but it is innate to the weapon and cannot be changed, so it counts. Let's hope this stupid dagger is worth it. Now to everybody's favorite boss, the Godskin Duo. In Sorcery Only, I didn't really have an option other than to fight them normally, and hope my absurd damage output could see me through. Here though, I have a secret weapon. Soporific Grease, a consumable weapon buff that can put the Godskin Duo to sleep. Except Soporific Grease is trash. It has 33 buildup, meaning I'd need to hit the boss 8 times in quick succession to actually proc sleep. In a boss as aggressive and damaging as this boss, yeah, no thank you. Seriously, why is it only 33? What trash buildup? For context, other greases that inflict statuses have buildups of 63. Almost double that. Ugh, I should have just used Rot Grease, I'm an idiot. Good thing the duo is very weak to both bleed and slash, meaning the Reduvia and its Bloodblade ends up being the way to go. Take some tries, as always, because this boss is a pain in the butt, but once I kill one of them, I can basically just fight them one at a time, because my slash and bleed damage are enough to keep them down. Into one of the real hardest fights in the game, Malekith. In both phases, he moves quick, has aggressive combos, and his damage is not at all reduced to account for how quickly he hits. This fight is a struggle. Okay, time to use one of those larval tears I've been collecting. The Glintblade Chris is not generally useful, but it has one important thing. Its skill has a really good range and can actually be charged to deal pretty good damage. Thanks to respecking, I can max out my intelligence to get that damage up even further. Malekith is still hard because the damage isn't that great, and while I now have range on my side, Malekith moves very quickly around his arena, particularly in Phase 2, and has a good number of ranged attacks of his own. Time and patience are enough to see me through. Why does Gideon have his own gameplay recording section? No. Yeah, so Gideon being easy to kill is a bit of a meme at this point, and it's kind of only half true. Gideon is an NPC boss using the same mechanics as the player, which means it is very easy to deal a stupid amount of damage, or a stupid amount of stagger, to stomp him into the ground. Daggers can't really do either of these things, and the normal fallback of putting distance between us and using Blade Beam is unhelpful. So yeah, this fight took a couple attempts, and I'm just as disappointed about it as everyone else. Then Hoaraloo decides he's also going to be a pain. My damage has not improved, will not improve, and I really don't have the range of options I did in Sorcery. I was excited for Elden Ring daggers. I really thought they'd be fun. Or interesting. But when compared with other runs, they just don't have enough going for them. It doesn't help that I apparently decided that I don't need to dodge Hoaraloo's attacks, even at all, which is a shame, because I really did need to dodge them. I really need more ways to up my damage with this build. If the enemy moveset means I can't keep pace to trigger bleed, I get absolutely walled. Eventually I decide to use the Reduvia in Phase 1 to take advantage of his comparatively easy to attack through moves, then switch to Glintstone Chris to get the range I need to shoot him from a distance. Despite being grabbed 3 times in the fight, I managed to pull out a meager victory. Strength befits a crown? Yeah, that's what that was. Why does Elden Beast have 3 separate gameplay clips? Oh no. Yep, no hiding from it anymore. Time for the final 2 fights, Radagon and Elden Beast. And I was not looking forward to these fights for the entire run, but even I was not expecting it to go this badly. Radagon is immune to bleed and resistant to slash and magic. That's all my options. And Elden Beast is immune to every status effect, and is resistant to every non-physical damage type. So, in order, let's go through the things I tried and how that went, because if I went through every attempt, it would take a while. Glintstone Chris. Range is good on the skill, and the damage is pretty good. Too bad charging it to actually deal good damage takes too long, and Radagon can both fly and teleport around the arena, and shoot light bolts. Chris works well in Phase 1 when he's comparatively less aggressive, and is a death sentence in Phase 2. Flame Art Erdsteel Dagger. Extra fire damage, which scales with Faith, is really good after a respec. Even means the first victory against Radagon. But it takes a lot of flasks, and my restriction on skills means I'm stuck not using any. Does get me to Elden Beast for the first time in this run. Still not good enough though, so while the damage is pretty good against Radagon, it's pretty awful against Elden Beast. Bloodflame Blade. Nope, trash, don't use this. The fire damage is not good. The Great Knife only works because it has bleed, which both these bosses are immune to. Bad. Black Flame Blade. Better idea, still not good. Black Flame applies a short damage over time effect that scales off enemy HP, which means it's useful against high HP enemies. Too bad the damage is still not good, especially with how much damage they deal in return, and the effect only lasting 6 seconds is frankly insulting. Charged attacks. Okay, kind of obvious in retrospect, but charge attacks are legitimately pretty good. They let me take better advantage of openings and deal stagger damage. Not a lot, but enough to occasionally stagger Radagon. Okay, it's pretty clear that throwing my face against this wall is not working, and this kind of highlights something about Elden Ring challenge runs I'm not the biggest fan of. Because my damage is not capped, I still have a bunch of things I can do to boost my damage. But I have to run around doing errands, collecting random items around the map, and I just don't want to. The sheer size of the world is great, until I need to do boring horse riding to the four corners of the lands between to give me the 10% boost I need to beat this boss. Which I guess it's now time to do. Okay, first problem is my level. It's low, or at least lower than I need it to be when doing a run this bad. I could grind, but instead I'm going to get a bunch of free levels by activating Godrick's Great Rune and using a rune arc. Normally this rune wouldn't be that useful this late in the game, but I need basically every stat other than intelligence and arcane, so 5 free levels to everything is great. Then I need the Fire Crack tier to increase the damage my Flame Art Erd Steel Dagger is doing. I really wish I'd remembered to pick up the other dagger before burning the Erd Tree. Power stancing 2 of these might have actually been great. Oh well, c'est la vie. I grabbed the wrong crack tier because I forgot which avatar has the fire one, then grabbed the right tier. Okay, back into Radagon with my new items and actually remembering to use my buffs. The fight goes much better, and I kill him before he can even use his big Elden Ring attack. My damage against Elden Beast is still real bad, and the customary run around his stupid arena still sucks. But the Lord's Protection incantation I picked up provides a huge boost to holy resistance. The fight is slow, and boring, and has way more tarnished cardio than I'd prefer, but Elden Beast finally dies. Well, I'm tired. That run started off great, and I got to just watch as my damage fell lower and lower relative to the enemies I was fighting. Really considering if I should have banned all damaging skills that weren't innate to weapons. On one hand, the game would have been way less awful. On the other, it would have been 10 hours of Glintblade Phalanx into critical hits. I'm gonna go lie down. Stay tuned for the wrap-up summary next Friday, where I'll talk about all the Dagger Only runs I just completed, and how that all went.